Peace, 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 peace to the planet Earth. As this is another wonderful Tuesday on the 100 TV. Usually we're here on Thursdays, but we had to hop up here because we got a lot going on tomorrow, which we're gonna speak on. My guest, she's already been here one time. She's back again from Sistas in Prison Reform. Sistas, I had to say that for Miss Santina. Definitely always appreciative. And gotta know, I just want to say this real quick before I get back in that. There's plenty of organizations. I got to say this right at the top of the hour. Plenty of organizations just like Sistas in Reform. Plenty of people that might not even be connected necessarily to organizations that are out here fighting. And that's what today's topic is about. That's what today's discussion is about. The topic that was put on there, the words were put on how to save a life. There are an alarming rate of individuals that are incarcerated for an obscene amount of time. I'm going to say it that way. I'm not going to say it the formal way. I'm just going to say over sentencing is very real. There are other ways to rehabilitate individuals, and there's better options than giving somebody 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, especially when the crimes aren't necessarily ones where people were hurt, harmed, etc. I think things need to be examined. Ways that you do that is you get involved. You help people identify what they can examine. You present new ideas in legislature and law, and you have conversations. So again, just wanting to bring everyone up here, up to speed while we're here on a Tuesday with Miss Juanita Belton. If you can you go ahead and reintroduce yourself? Let everybody know what's going on.
Sure. Good evening. I'm Juanita Belton. I bring you cold weather from Boston, Massachusetts. I'm a co-founder of Sistas in Prison Reform.
Awesome.
That's my advocacy work.
Right, no question. So I just wanted, I'm going straight into the conversation. I was excited to get you up here because not only are you somebody that's fighting alongside others, and before I forget, man, I gotta shout you guys out, Santi and everybody. I was up there at the ACLU
training.
Man, and I just gotta say thank you to you guys again, man. That was amazing. I was in the room. That was like it was a bunch of freedom fighters in there to me.
Mm-hmm.
Music was playing, and it was like I was like, okay.
I know the music was pretty good.
Yeah, that was like my first real experience. I think being in that, even though we weren't in person, but being in the midst of that many people. For me, being out of state, not being handled by the VA. But I was excited to get you back up here because I think it's important to illustrate to people that the fight is worth it. Sometimes when you're in a fight, you get discouraged. There's different ways to fight for a loved one's freedom. Before we got up here, one of the reasons I was excited, Miss Juanita was part of, the action that called for somebody to get a pardon, which, as we noted, is the golden ticket. Mm-hmm. The chances are what they are when it comes to those type things, right? But not impossible, as we're about to discuss. But also keep in mind that there's other ways to fight, which we're also going to get into. There's laws that need to be passed and legislation and different things that just need to be pushed. So there's more than one way to fight, and we're going to get into a little bit of all that. I touched on it a little bit. You were part of the reason somebody came home on a pardon. Can you break that down for everybody? Because I think it's important. People sometimes we hear or we see it and we're like, somebody made a pardon, but we don't know that person. It's always good to actually hear somebody speak to it that was involved in the process.
Yeah, it took a lot of work, and so I'm very glad that you highlighted. Before I get started, I'm very glad that you highlighted how there are a number of different ways in which people can do things and make their voices heard. Because obviously, getting a pardon, that's like, I don't know if it's 1 in a million or whatever the statistic is, right. But it's a hard task, and it required a lot of work. So just a brief synopsis of Sincere and I, we were childhood friends. We've been friends since we were 15 years old.
That's what's up.
And so when he went away to prison at 18, I remember that, we That's wrote. Crazy. we wrote for with each other, pen and paper before there was
That's a movie right there.
before there was
We gotta
JPay.
tag 50 Cent real quick. Hey, that's
Yeah,
real
before there
right
was
there.
JPay, when the phone calls was like
Yeah,
$1 million, so you only had like one maybe a month. He'd call when I, would come home from college, speak to my mom and stuff. And so we did that for like 8 years. And then in 2006, we separated. I had graduated grad school and stuff, lives.
yeah,
And then there was a decade that went by. And then in 2016, I went looking for him, and I found him. And then, we talked at the top of the year, middle of the year, end of the year. And then so around 2019, he did his normal, like, hey, haven't talked to you in a month of Sundays, till pen meets paper, or rather till email meets send. I don't know.
mhm,
And I was like, hey, what's going on? I haven't talked to you in a while. And we were best friends, so we could always just kind of jump into like talking again. And I
mhm,
was like, what's going on? I think for me, I had pushed a lot of things out of sight, out of mind from when we were 18, because from writing, I knew what he was in there for, but I just pushed it in the back. So anyway,
right,
after having a reminder, he was telling me about the General Assembly. Now, again, I'm from Boston. I know nothing about Virginia, and in general, my profession, I'm a physician assistant, so I'm in medicine. No clue about the law, but he
right.
was like, listen to the General Assembly. That's when earned sentencing credits was first introduced by Delegate Don Scott, and
Uh-huh.
then he took it off for a minute because they were trying to make it for non-violent people with non-violent convictions. So then George Floyd happened, and
Yeah,
then they had a special election, got earned sentence back on the books, obviously pushed it to this year, July, or 2022 July. But the point is that none of the legislation that was presented included anyone that had a violent conviction, and he was in for a violent conviction. So I was like, all right, well, after the January 2020 General Assembly, I was like, all right, well, what's the next step? What are we doing? There's no parole. Earned sentence doesn't apply to you. Juvenile parole doesn't apply to you because your crime was when you were 18 and not under 18. So what do we do? And he was like, well, I plan to do a pardon. Okay, how do we write a pardon? Oh, I don't want to burden you. Dude, we're going to do this. We're going to do
right.
a pardon. So I spent the whole 2020 doing, I got all the support letters. I got, and then I joined Twitter. I'm a beast at Twitter, by the way. Joined
I got
Twitter.
last.
I started talking to people. I started, messaging legislators. This is me by myself at the time. Um, Putting all of this together. I Googled how to put together a pardon, because he was like, we don't need a lawyer. Cool, whatever. And then I got a lot of help. When I reached out to social media and
Yeah,
I would put on there that I needed help, people were willing to help.
it's a lot of people.
Obviously, you just got to put it out there and be vulnerable.
Yeah,
And people were helping me. And then COVID obviously happened in that time. So there were a lot of organizations that were trying to help people who might have been at risk for COVID complications, whether he had diabetes, high blood pressure, etc. And for him, he had asthma. So the Redemption Project started, and they posted on Twitter. I was on it. I was like, I got a friend, etc., that's
yeah,
inside. So I ended up putting his pardon together and sending it off because I didn't hear anything from the Redemption Project, and then I did, and I put him in there and gave them all his information and everything. By the luck of the draw, the new year 2021, I hadn't heard anything. I reached out on Twitter. Someone was on Twitter willing to have a meeting with me, and he checked on it for me. I just started getting angels. Checked on it for me. He's like, you all have a lawyer. We called. They were like, there's no, well, they said no because I already put the pardon in. And they were like, oh, it looks good. He doesn't have a problem. Same night, they called me back and they were like, we're going to take the case. They were like, one, he shouldn't be in there. We're not really sure how he was convicted, or he
yeah,
took a plea deal, but why? And two, they were just inspired by all the different things that he'd done for 20, at this point, it was like 22 years.
right.
Um, And then I tell you that God just kept putting everything in place. And I was talking to legislators, I was building relationships, I was tired, I was crying, I was fighting. And I was like, I would tell him, like, just keep your head on. Don't make a fool of me out here. I'm putting my name on things.
Question. Yeah, don't make no move. Yeah,
Don't
right.
listen, okay? And I think the blessing for me, which makes it a lot harder now, is that we were in the time of Zoom. Zoom was really heavy because of COVID. So
Mhm.
I was getting meetings, even though I had doors shut, I had no responses a lot. And then Families Against Mandatory Minimum stepped in. They helped. I had his two lawyers, they were helping. I was messaging like, all right, who we talk to now? Who do I send the message to now? Who do I meet now? Like, I'm gonna send you this. And Senator Jennifer Boysko, who I will always say is a champion for people who are incarcerated, she didn't know him from a can of paint.
Is that who went to Lawrenceville?
Yes, Lawrenceville, Deerfield, Sussex 1, Sussex 2,
Okay.
Nottoway. The one, she did an interview and she was able to talk about, because what she would do was she went to the prisons. He was the first person she visited in a prison, period. And when she did, like, she first talked to him on the phone, and then she went and he got a bunch of guys together and they had a round table, just her by herself. And she went off. She would later go off, yes, and do that at Sussex, do that at Deerfield, do it at Lawrenceville.
My
Talk to the
brother
guys
went to one.
themselves.
Yeah, my brother was
Nobody
able.
did that.
Yeah.
Right. And so January of 2022, they were in the gym, lockdown, COVID. And I was like, my mom, this is the part that I love to tell. My mom prayed. I got a praying mother. And I was like, I hadn't talked to him, and I was like, this is hard. My mom, January 12th, that evening, I got off of work and I was like, can I just vent for a second? Can I just be human for 1 second? And I was like, this is a lot. This has been a lot. I mean, we had done a documentary. I did blogs. Everything you could think of to get some attention.
Mhm.
And that's how Sisters in Prison Reform was created, with their loved ones and everything. And my mom talked about the book of Ruth and God in the final hour having the final say. And I talk about it because I was in tears, and I was just like, I'm tired. And I was like, this man, along with a bunch of people, deserve to be home. And when I tell you that was 5 o'clock, 7 p.m., I got a call that he got that pardon. And I called my mom. I called my mom. She'd be embarrassed if I told her, but she passed out on the floor. And my
Hey,
sister got on the phone and she was like, yeah, we're gonna call you back.
if you gonna pass out, you might for a reason. You might want to pass
So
out for that reason.
she
And I just
did, but she talked about the final hour and God having the final say. And so then on the 14th he was released.
I got a story about that. That the Book of Ruth's my wife's favorite book. When you said
Mm-hmm.
that, I got goosebumps. But yeah, um, he comes home. Your mother passes out, or wait, we get the call. Your mother passes out. I want to go back really quick, and I'm gonna bounce a couple different places. But I know these are
Sure.
things I like to ask questions. Sometimes people don't think about, and you kind of touched on it a little bit. Sometimes people tell loved ones they're gonna fight for them, right? And then they get into it and they realize it might be too much. And I hear I'm not here to judge, but I think sometimes people give up on the fight because they're not
Mm-hmm.
thinking about that part. If you could describe what, because you touched on it about a little bit, but what does it take? What type of mentality? Because you talked about the no's, you talked about the networking aspect. If you just words of encouragement to anybody that may be just embarking on a journey of advocating for somebody or anything, because I don't think people often think about, is it
How hard?
exhausting? Is it frustrating? What did you go through being on this outside and fighting?
Depression, anxiety, I sacrificed my family,
Right.
um, relationships, just trying to convince people that somebody deserves a second chance. People, um, many nights crying my eyes out, prayer. Um, but I would say, when one door closes, windows open or other doors closed, or I go through the back door. And don't get me wrong, like he would say to me, like, take a break. Like, if you don't want to do this, you don't have to do this. And I'm like, in
Yeah.
2019, I said, do you trust me to bring you home? And he was like, I trust you. You know, we've been friends since we were 15 years old. I said, do you trust me to bring you home? And we were like family. And he said, yeah. And I was like, all right, well, that's what we're gonna do. So yeah, depression, tears, prayer, anger, um, sometimes feeling lonely, you know, feeling like the only one doing something, gathering information, doing like making calls, this, then the other thing, and then you still got your own life. Um, so what I would say to people is like, be realistic when you think about this fight, because I remember a friend of mine is incarcerated. He's at Buckingham, Antonio, and he said, this is the Titanic. It's not a speedboat. It's the Titanic. I would fall apart. And he's like, this is the most that Virginia's done in, like, at the time, I think it was like 25 years or something. You had the abolishing of the death penalty and then earned sentencing credit. He's like, so you got to keep going. Um, but I also would encourage people that in that process, if you got to stop for a second, stop. And the person that's inside has to also understand that you have a life too. You need your mental health too. Like, you're fighting for them and they got the stuff inside, but like, you're going through things too. And so it was very nice to have that support where, like, he would be like, all right, take a break for a second. Like, you've done, and like all this week you did emails and it said no more.
Yeah.
Go find solace in something.
Yeah, I know he was grateful just to know somebody was out there, and hopefully anybody is hearing what she's saying. You have to be able to sustain yourself to commit to the fight, and it might be an uphill
Yeah,
battle. You know?
you do, because you can easily, like, I realized that when it was over or when it was done, I realized how much I neglected myself. Whether it's like eating healthy, I gained so much weight. Just, I mean, everybody gained their COVID weight, but I was just going, you know, lack of sleep, just everything, traveling, going back and forth,
Yeah,
you know. And again, you also sacrifice the people that are around you. Like, if I could do it all over again, I would do that piece of it differently,
right.
you know, because your family's there with you. If you have supportive people with you, they're going to feel the brunt of it too.
No question. No question. And just hearing you speak it's a lot of things I've heard my wife say. I've heard other people say, but she reminds me. She was like, anytime you have somebody up here that was with somebody fighting for somebody, whatever, give them the opportunity to speak to what they were going through. And I wanted you to be heard, because it's important. I think people need to know that part, and you hit it right on the head. You want to be able to commit to the things you're sure you can commit to, that you're going to be
Hmm.
comfortable with. That's because you still got life, you still got the car that might break down or whatever.
Yeah.
So and you want to not make promises that you can't keep,
No.
just because that complicates things for people that are incarcerated. But
Yeah. The
yeah,
other thing from what you just said that you also have to understand is that I remember the first year I kept saying, "Oh, I'm gonna bring you home." I hyped myself up so much and so excitement to want to do something that when it didn't occur, because this, there's no guarantee in any of this. There's no guarantee in laws changing. There's no guarantee in a pardon being. There's no guarantee. And also too, Virginia has the reputation of holding on to pardon packets for like dumb long years, right? So you have to be realistic when you enter this, that like this might take a little while. So that's another big thing, because someone inside is counting on you. You have to be realistic with the expectation,
gotcha.
because there was a high chance that this wasn't going anywhere either.
Right. And you gotta maintain yourself mentally to
Oh
endure.
yeah,
So yeah. So I want to shift back. I got a million questions, but I'm trying
asked away.
to I know people are gonna want to know. They've got a loved one locked up, and you just again you touch on, but maybe if you can just be specific. Maybe if you could say this step 1, 2, 3, good things to do. If an individual has somebody that's locked up, maybe they can't afford a lawyer, maybe they don't know anything about the legal system, and they're just trying to start somewhere. What are some good basic ideas that somebody can do with just their phone? It doesn't cost much, just some good places to start. I know you got a million ideas, but
Yeah, basic is your legislators, your senator, and your delegate. Start telling your loved one's story. Um, and also from an angle of like they're in there for a crime. It's not about whether they did something or they didn't at this point. Someone been in 24, 25. It's not about that. It's about who they are right now. Highlight to your legislators why you need their support, who your loved one is and what they've done. Like we shied away from you talk a little bit about the crime, but we shied away from the details because at the end of the day, that person, he was 18. We're talking about a 41-year-old man or 50 or however old your loved one is. So that's one. Your lawmakers, and keep messaging them. Have meetings. You can actually, if you're like in Richmond, this sounds, people might be afraid of this, but you can actually go to like the Pocahontas building and talk to legislators. Like their offices are in there, and their secretaries are there. So if they're in the office, you can ask as a constituent to have a brief meeting. You are their constituents. They're working for you. It sounds cliche, but they are working for you. So keep messaging. Message the delegates and the senators that are in the area where your loved one is incarcerated, right? Because a lot of times they don't know, they don't care, they don't think about people that are incarcerated. We'll make them think about them. We did a petition on change.org. To me, that's hit or miss, because certain murder is like a buzzword, right? Just like cancer. You hear cancer, like when I tell my patients or something, like if I mention cancer or that they don't, they instantly, I've had patients crying. I'm like, no, 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 I didn't say you have cancer.
right.
Um, but
But it shoots that
yeah,
alarm off.
exactly. It solicits an emotion. And so same with murder. So when you do something like a change petition, change.com petition, write a story about the person and just kind of keep those details brief, but focus on again who this person has become, the programs that they've done, and that can get you people who can help fight as well. If you're doing a pardon, you can use those petitions and include that in your pardon packet if you decide to do one. um, but it's really about honestly building relationships. Get involved in the community, get involved in organizations like No Left Turn, Sheba Williams reentry organizations. She has good resources on how you can get involved. FAM is another website, another organization that teaches you how to tell your story, your loved one's story, because there's a way to do this. You can't just go and say James did X, Y, and Z, and I think this thing. There is a method to how you tell a story. And FAM is an organization that helps people tell their loved one's story, that can help you get interested, people interested in your loved one. But yeah, get involved in the community with this. Those are like, they sound like they're hard, but they're not. And don't take no for an answer. Like, it's cool if you feel defeated. Wake up the next morning and keep going again.
And I just want to speak to the networking aspect.
Mm-hmm.
If you network right, you can find somebody connected to the people in the room.
You can.
I've seen that, not in my own but I've watched it happen with and he's home, right? His family, when I say they networked their way into the room. And
Yeah, I mean, think about citizen prison reform. We literally were like three women, like, all right, Virginia is not going to do anything about our loved ones who have long-term sentences,
did
right?
anybody have a background in law, anything? You
No,
just said you were in the medical.
Pantia's in media, Paula's in IT, and I'm in medicine. No. Look, when I wrote this part, and I was like, all right. I looked at how you write one in California, how you write one in Texas. I was on Dr.
Right.
Google. I joined Twitter, which also, oh, wait a minute. Facebook is good,
Talk.
but
Yeah.
your lawmakers are on Twitter.
Break
They
down
are really,
Twitter. Break down.
yes,
Tell somebody
Twitter.
how to navigate it though, because Santia put me on, and I'm grateful, but I'm still not on it like I need to. Like she
It
recommended.
take it takes time. If you get on there, look up your delegate or your senator and start following them. Start following, like, for me, the people in the Black Caucus,
And talking
Virginia
about, I
Black
hope y'all
Caucus.
taking notes. I'm taking notes, and I'm doing the interview just
Yeah,
so y'all.
Virginia Black Caucus members, they're all on there. Everybody's on there. Senator Morrissey's on there. Senator Sorrell's on there. Boysko's on there. Um, Delegate Irene Shin is on there. Hell, Tommy Norman's on there. Senator Tommy Norman.
Direct them messages
Okay,
straight up.
I think Senator Delegate Kilgore is on there. Like, they're on there. Their legislative aides are on there. And I go in the DMs. It go down in the DMs, not that way, but it go down in the DMs. And
Dang.
that's how I started. I would get in the DMs and I would message about my loved one, and some people responded, some people didn't. And I've met a lot of people in Virginia just by being on Twitter and talking. Like, don't be afraid to talk. All they can tell you is no. All they can tell you is they don't want to hear it.
So true.
I mean, but you have to learn that, and you have to build that confidence. Like, I had to build it. So it sounds easy for me, but I had to build that confidence to go in there and say, hey, or there's someone who's very big in advocacy in New York. And I sent him a message. I was like, hey, I read your history, that you were incarcerated and this is what you're doing. You have a nonprofit. I'd like to talk with you about my loved one who one day is going to get out, and how can he do X, Y, and Z like you. He gave me an hour, and that hour turned into him helping me to find out he had a lawyer with the Redemption Project. That turned into him helping me with the pardon stuff and making calls. That turned into me now being able to text him anytime and see how he's doing and keep him up abreast of what's going on and getting advice.
Yeah.
It's networking.
Networking.
And none of us knew how to network. I sure did. I'm shy. It doesn't seem like, but I actually am.
Yeah.
But if it means something to you, you're gonna do it.
No question. Especially, yeah, because time's ticking, and
Yeah.
and the right networking, it applies to anything. Even in business, if you
Mm-hmm.
business, it's just networking is key. Network is essential. You can't sit stagnant and think that some conversation is going to be had somewhere about your loved one. You have to push the narrative. That's why you guys see me up here screaming free Jefferson, Ellie, and anything I can do.
Yeah.
And I would say this too. Don't think that any of your efforts are minuscule.
Oh
It
no.
could be the simplest thing of putting a post on Facebook with his name. If you get into the habit of just getting his name, start somewhere, and you never know, because it just takes one person.
Yeah.
It really.
Listen, of all the people that I met, like in lawmakers, right? And here's the harder part for me. I'm not even from Virginia. They didn't have to listen to nothing from me
You're
because I'm
motivated.
not even a constituent.
Yeah.
But I just kept one of the lawmakers that I've gotten to know. He said to me, most people don't listen to anybody but their constituents. And I was like, well, why did you listen to me? He was like, because you pushed and you had a good story. Keep going, because if it's worth it, they'll listen to you. And I remember the first time last year when we were pushing second look, and Sincere got up and he was testifying against about it on the floor, and he goes, the senator goes, tell Miss Belton I said hello, and I popped up on the screen. Um, and he's like, there she is. I worked that man. Okay.
That's juice right there. Hey, and the thing is, like, you form these connections, and I don't say this for the wrong reasons, but it's good to have connections with certain people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to call the mayor of Jonesboro. Just call him. We've had the mayor Latonia come to the school twice for events out here. So it's like It's good. Form these connections, network, and like she said, you can't be scared of the no. Like if
No,
the no is the worst thing that can happen. Literally, if your loved one's already incarcerated, they've already been sentenced, they can't get any more time added on. If you ask the wrong person, they'll simply
no,
say no.
no.
So, and I wanted to shift over here because you mentioned a buzzword to me: second look, or second chance. Anytime I hear second,
Okay.
we got an event. You said there's an event tomorrow,
Yep. So
and
not
there's
really an
people.
event. So SB
Excuse
842,
me.
which is also sentence remodification, but it's second look. Patroned by Senator Chap Peterson, is going up in Senate Judiciary hearing tomorrow at it's probably going to be around 1 o'clock. So I was telling people, if you are in Richmond, you can go to the Pocahontas building in the Senate Room A. It's on the first floor. Um, no signs or anything in the Pocahontas building. They will take them and they won't let you in. And you can go and say, I'm so and so, and I support Second Look. You always want to keep, here's a key thing, you always want to keep it sort of brief in there. So you can't go into like a whole spiel. But my loved one is so and so, and he's been incarcerated for X amount of years. And he has earned a second look. Or what we really want people to do, because the opposing side will get up and say all victims don't believe in second look, and it's going to reduce people's sentences and all, and it's not. What it does is it gives people an opportunity to have a reduction. It's not an automatic thing. But what we like to have people do is, if you have been a victim of a crime, I am someone that is a survivor of domestic violence and also sexual abuse, and I'm in my 40s. I've worked on myself and I've worked in healing, and so I support this, right? Because I have a best friend that went to prison for a violent crime. So, as someone that's been a victim of a crime, I want to say I support second look. I support second chances, because the opposing side will say we're all monolithic, and that's not true. Um, I think the thing that was most powerful last week when we had our lobby day in Virginia was a man who got up and was a victim of a robbery. And we had a young man who'd come and was convicted of robbery, and they talked. And that the man said, had it been 40 years ago, he'd never get up here and say that he believed in second chances. And that was powerful, because they did an article about it, where one was convicted of robbery and one was a victim of it, and how the two of them were able to come together and support something like this. So tomorrow we need feet on the ground, and you can also sign up um, to do a virtual. So there's no reason why you can't
It,
get involved,
I
because
want to say, you
virtual's
said
there.
Pocahontas Building, Senate Room A. So tomorrow, 1 p.m. You said 1 p.m.
Yep, 1 p.m.
Pocahontas Building, Senate Room A in Richmond. You can
Yep,
go there. No signs, but go there. Brief statements, just showing support.
for second
Towards
look.
the bill. Second look, SB 842. I want to make sure I got
Yep,
that right.
SB 842. And if
SB
you follow me on Facebook, Juanita Kennard, Kennard, I've posted it up there. I've also posted in the groups Fighting for Reform, Incarcerated Families in Virginia, Ignite Virginia. We've posted in those.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
So show support. What about the virtual? Is it because you mentioned you can sign up virtually, or is there?
Yeah, so I will send you the link so that
Gotcha.
you can post for everyone to sign up virtually. Virtual, they give you, like, depending on how many people are on virtually, you basically say, I support this bill. I think we have a good chance in the Senate. The House is where we're going to have a problem, specifically Criminal Subcommittee 1, where the chair is Delegate Rob Bell, who's a Republican. who doesn't believe in any sort of criminal justice reform that would allow anybody that's incarcerated to come out. He's stuck on the 85%. He's stuck on the idea that we need to continue to be tough on crime, and he's stuck on Virginia having the lowest recidivism rate, just even though that recidivism rate isn't because people are incarcerated. There's a lot of different factors that go into that, and it also has to do with like the local jails and things like that. So it's not a true low recidivism rate. I mean, it's cute, but
We
um,
it's
it's
dressed
misleading.
right.
Right. So Delegate Bell killed it last year. I mean, we were all talking like, we believe in this, etc. And he didn't even consider it. So we're trying to make a bigger smash this time around when it gets to that. We didn't have a House bill version this year because we knew it wouldn't get docketed because he didn't let the bill last year get docketed.
Mm. So I just want so you're in the medical field, Santia's in media, Pauletta's in IT, I wasn't
Paula.
just you. And you guys form a team, a
Mhm.
powerhouse, and some amazing work has been done. I don't want to ask this. I wish I could get you guys maybe in the future come back up and speak to the what you just kind of touched on, because I hear a lot of times people wonder what subcommittees are and
Mhm.
how to get legislate, and just basically I think at some point I got to get somebody up here to break down the actually that part of the system and the process a bill has to go, etc. Because I
Yeah.
think people need to know that part. You learn you're spitting facts off like you passed the bar and you part of the government. Everything is just through experience though, right?
It
And it's
is.
networking and so
Trial and error.
right. And that's what I guess the next question is amongst that you're meeting people. Um, the longer you go down this path, you're able to identify such individuals like I think you said his name was Bell that didn't even look at the law.
Mhm.
You're able to identify those that you know, and you're coming with strategy, like you just said. You're not presenting the house version, which I think is amazing. So I just wanted to salute that. Because it's one thing to fight; it's another thing to fight with strategy. You know.
Right.
So yeah. Um, what are some other event? And I want to go over. I want to go back on fam and the fam because everybody keeps shouting out fam. But
Yeah. I
I,
got it. Look, fam.
want to. I mean, I want to meet fam. I want to get. But um, other events, other organizations, other just anything. But maybe first the events because I think before we had hopped on here, you spoke about some other things that are coming up or things that people can get involved in.
Yeah, so the League of Women Voters tomorrow has their lobby day. It's their first lobby day in 2 years from 8:30 to 11:30. So League of Women Voters, you can go on their website and sign up for their lobby day where they will be lobbying about voter rights amendments. And voting is very important. A lot of times people don't think voting is important, but voting is important, but voting is the fundamental, it's just like the building blocks of everything. Um, and without it, we get people like Miaris and Youngkin and Trump in office. So tomorrow is their lobby day.
Gotta vote.
February 8th is Justice Forward's lobby day. Justice Forward Virginia. That's another organization that um, works on a lot of different bills. I'm sorry, I don't have them all up right now, but Justice Forward Virginia is another organization you can look up on Facebook, also on Twitter, and find out all the bills that they are working on. They do a lot of things in the courts. Um, and so it's just very important to, you can go on the Virginia LIS. It's the Virginia Legislative Information System, LIS, and you can look up all the bills that are in session. You can look them up by bill numbers if you have them. You can look them up by patrons who are sponsoring them. You can look up everything, whether it's education bills, criminal justice, healthcare. That's what I go on and look. It's taken me some time to get used to how to navigate it for me, but I'm being a lot more diligent in looking at it. Um, you can go on the Virginia General Assembly website. I just type that in Google and click on that, and you can find out the meetings that are happening, whether it's all the different subcommittees, committees, like rehab. I wrote some things down. Um, like rehab and social services is going to meet Friday, and I have a bill that I'm interested in from Senator Barbara Favola that has to do with peer recovery support specialists. Like you can look up things that
Go on that.
yeah, think, and I could talk more on that because that was an experience that Sin had to go through when he got out. But she's got a bill about that, or like Senator Boysko has the bill that where Senate Bill 1274, where she's trying to get free communication electronically in the state prisons. So just go and play around with it and see if there are things that interest you. You don't have to be like a lawyer or no. I mean, you can just look around and see if there's things that interest you. A lot of voting stuff going on now. They're trying to get you to have IDs for things and,
Yeah.
um, you know, um, what is absentee ballot stuff. So just
Don't
play
come to
around.
Georgia. Don't come
Yeah,
to Georgia. Make it extra hard. But I was able to.
right.
I was
So
able
you
to.
need to be looking at these things because if you don't have the right to vote for things, we're not sitting here right now talking about anything else.
Right. So it for me, we spoke about utilization of social media. Um, Last couple weeks, I've been going on a rant about people being on social media and not utilizing their time wisely. I get it, guys. Get up here and not think about stuff and scroll. But she just gave you a bunch of ways you can get on your phone. You can get on Twitter and you can start contacting people. So I just want to encourage that any of the names she shot off, not just on Twitter. If you got to Google people, any of the help organizations, all of these things. She mentioned Virginia LIS, where you can get up there and look at different bills. All of these things, research, 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 because it's going to give you information that you can apply, network, and find a path of where you want to fight. Maybe you
Yeah.
just want to fight for SB 1274, which is amazing when you think about it, because it'll give individuals the ability to speak to their family without, being charged an arm and a leg. And it's possible because in California they just passed a law
Mm-hmm.
to it. So we got other people hopping up here, but just whatever you do, just know that literally with your phone, you can start the fight. You can do a lot. If you can set a goal of sending 3 emails out or 3 messages out a
Yeah.
day, I think that's a great start.
And here's the thing about that. You don't have to write a new email for everybody.
Yeah.
Write that one email and then you can make it generic to an extent. I mean, when you put your loved one in there, not that part, but in terms of dear Senator so and so, just do the email and then the next email copy paste, dear so and so. And a lot of times, like organizations like FAM on Facebook will already have, or even Justice Forward will always already have pre-written um, phrases, words, etc., that you can already send to people.
Yep.
Or you can just even put your phone number in something and like it'll call um, a delegate or a senator in where you live. You put in your zip code, it'll give you who your senator and your delegate is.
Yeah.
Like, and I get it, people don't know it because
We don't
sometimes people
know.
don't know where to start,
Yeah.
but you can go on the Virginia General Assembly. You can find the members of the Senate, members of the House of Delegates in your area. You can like FAM, like I said, or even Justice Forward. They often put things up. Yeah, like, and these are things I had to learn. I had to learn, and like, and then in terms of social media, I'll literally be in a meeting, and I'm like, going like this and I'm talking because I'm tweeting something or I'm putting something on Facebook. Don't tweet, don't text and drive.
Mm.
I've done it, but don't do it.
Right.
But still, I'm just doing it
Yeah.
just like that.
Let me ask you, as far as because you mentioned Sincere. He came home, he spoke. He was speaking in front of some people right when he got home. And matter of fact,
Yeah.
I think I had seen a post on Facebook.
Like
Um,
the next day. That was me.
so I think because I think he came home, if I'm not mistaken, around another guy, no Poppy, another
Yep,
dude.
Angel.
Right. And these are guys that I think they were all older than me, is maybe why I don't necessarily, but I remember when they came home, and I remember a few of them from Sussex too when I was up there. Um, he was able to come home and get involved. For the men and women that are watching this, because I know there's a percentage of people that, just like me, that did some time, came home, and they might be wondering how they can get into the fight. Aside from what they heard, should somebody that's been incarcerated be scared to get involved in these conversations? Should they think they could hurt the process, or are they helping? Like, what's the truth? I know sometimes people are concerned about that. They're like, well, I
I
don't want to
think,
put my name on something because
yeah. I mean, and rightfully so, right? If you're in Virginia and you saw like brother Vincent Martin, how they did him, putting his picture up every chance they get, I think it's one of those things where you have to be okay with the possibility that
Mhm.
someone's going to come at you a certain way, or that someone's going to find your name and look up your charges. Anything I ever did in this process, I had a conversation with him,
Yeah,
with Sincere. Anything I ever did that involved any type of media, I would have a conversation, because if he was not okay with something, I was not going to do something,
right.
regardless of how I felt about it. His mindset was, it can't be no worse than what they've done to me in here,
Yeah, definitely.
and because he'd been to 12 prisons over 24 years. So for him, a lot of things was okay. But for some people, they're not ready. And for some people, they don't want to come out and all of a sudden be an advocate. And that's okay too.
Yeah, yeah.
You
I
know?
and I think everybody doesn't have to come home and be an advocate. You shouldn't have. I don't feel obligated. I came home. I jumped into it as a returning citizen my first year home, and it was daunting. And I caught flack, and I had to be prepared for it. It wasn't nothing but it was just certain remarks, stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. Oh, you just came home from prison, you fighting for somebody. But I just think about that. But at the same time, I also want to say to anybody coming home, still utilize your voice. Part of the
Mm-hmm.
ways that we can help is just acknowledging what's going on behind prison walls. And one of the biggest ways we can help, hands down, is coming home and living a great life, a positive life,
Right.
and leading by example. And then, maybe a year later, 6 months later, say, hey, I just wanted to stop by and say I support this bill. I'm a returning citizen. I've been
Yep.
home for 1 year now. This is what I do. So there's just different ways. I just want to encourage my brothers and sisters with felony convictions. Don't be discouraged. Um,
No.
yeah, it's
Here's
okay.
here's why to me it doesn't hurt, right? To me it doesn't hurt because I don't know what being in prison is like. The last time I was in prison was never. So I can't speak to your experience. Only you can speak to your experience, right? And I can't belittle you, or I shouldn't attack you because this was your experience. I also don't know what factors led up to you being incarcerated. That's the part that bothers me. Let me get on my soapbox for a second, if you give me a minute. No, because
Oh,
that's the thing. That's the thing that bothers me. People, if you read a lot about if you read a lot of statistics about people who are incarcerated, right? You know that Black and brown people are disproportionately affected, right?
of
We
course.
get the harshest sentence from the time you're in we get the harshest treatment from the time you are arrested through the whole process, including the conviction and the time that you get. We've seen it multiple times over and over, where the white counterpart will have the same crime and get less time, right? And then a lot of times people are in the wrong place at the wrong time. I'm not saying people don't commit crimes. That's not what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
what I am saying is that a lot of people who live in poor neighborhoods, disenfranchised community, white and black, but a lot of times brown and black, will plea out for things that they did not do because they have been told. You all saw when they see us, right? They will plead out to things that they didn't do. They because they want to go home. They're tired. They're coerced, right? And so they think that if I plea
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
to 10 years, I'm gonna be home in 5,
Yeah.
not knowing that you're in a state that doesn't even have a parole because you don't know the law like that. So now you done took a plea for 20 something years and you got to do 85% of that.
And they don't explain it to you.
They do
If,
not
if
explain it.
you don't ask, or you don't know,
You,
better yet, if you don't
and
know
they
the
know
right
you
way.
don't, and they know you do not know. So for me, when I meet people, because I've met people that are incarcerated, I've become friends with people, and I still keep in contact with through JPay as a result of doing this with Sincere. I don't know the facts of that case. I
Yeah.
don't know every little detail. I don't know if that person was really there or not, or this or that. What I do know is that I am talking to an individual that has spent 25, 30 years in prison. I do know that that's not the same individual that went into it. And if they are, or you're the same person, then you got other things you need to deal with. And I can't help with that one.
No
But
question.
I think when we're back to what you were asking me about people coming out, we need to give a little bit more grace to people that are coming out. That you all have had to live with your stuff, right? That's your stuff. I can't judge that.
Yeah.
But I need to know what's going on the inside. I need to know your experiences. That's how things change. Out of sight, out of mind, which is what a lot of these politicians are.
No,
And I give the example of Senator Boysko, who, by the way, has your brother's book.
that's what's up, man.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
And she was so cute because she was concerned that it might be his only book, but I was like, he
Oh, no.
wanted you to have it.
Tell
Okay.
her, we if she wants 50 more, we'll send 50 right now. All she gotta do is send the word. We got
Right. But my point is that she can now go and talk about the communications bill. You know why? Because she talked to your brother, she talked to Sincere, she talked to Angel, she talked to other people about how important it is to be connected to the loved one, to your loved one, and what happens when you're not, as opposed to just sitting up there saying they deserve to be in prison 85%, boom, boom, boom.
It's got to be conversation. It has to be conversation. And it has to be the right people speaking. And it's got to
Right.
find its way to the right set of ears. And
Right. So no, I went a roundabout way to say no. It coming out and you speaking your experience, it needs to be heard.
yeah, I agree. I would just say from personal, like I was for my situation down here in Atlanta, I was scared to I'm not, yeah, maybe scared to put out there in front of the world I did 17 years, because down here they just knew me as a prince. And this unrelated, but just for anybody that might be scared of being stereotyped, etc. I had to a bunch of people reminded me, it's 2023, and 9 times out of 10, if they haven't been locked up, somebody near them, close to them, has
Yep.
been. So that's just a word of encouragement, man. Wear your truth on your sleeve. It's easier to be transparent, and you'll feel better. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you, yeah, it's just easy, and just build off that. Show them
Yeah.
why our brothers, our sisters, even the juveniles that are being impacted by certain laws, everybody that deserves a chance. And again,
Yeah.
I want to be clear. Anybody else, in case there's anybody that's watching this and say, "Hey, why should I fight for somebody that's locked up?" We're speaking about the individuals that deserve a second chance. We're speaking
Right.
about individuals that have a proven track record. Some are falsely in prison, some are over sentenced, but maybe the median is they were sentenced according to some a fair amount. But we're just talking about opportunities to get them home sooner, especially when they're in there
Right.
and they're being productive and they're contributing already. Um, People deserve a second chance. I will say yes, monsters exist. Some people, I will say, From somebody that spent 17 years behind those walls, I will say some people do not deserve to come home. I will say that, but I
Hmm.
will also say there's plenty of people that do.
I
Um,
think there's a lot more good than there are. I don't want to say bad, right? Because I
right.
just think that's a good adjective, but there are a lot more deserving individuals than
It
there
really
are
is.
who, and typically if they're not, those people are going to act out when they get out, right? That's the other thing, people think if you reduce sentences, or you make better laws rather, around crime, that you're gonna get a. I remember I was listening to them last week on the floor talking about bad apples. Why are we using terms like bad apples? You're going to get people that are gonna mess up when they get out. I mean, we all mess up, right? Um, but you're gonna get a majority of people that just want to come out and pay taxes. I remember one of my friends, he's been in 30 years. He's like, you know what I want? He's like, I want to get out, I want to get a job. He was like, and I want to have kids, and I want to marry a soccer mom. And I said, you know what? And that's what you can do. That's all he wants to do.
I know and we can start a whole nother. We're bringing this to the end, but I just want to speak to that. If people only knew how many guys were behind those walls because of a 30-second decision, and the whole rest of their life before that, good people, but something happened. And again, situations, circumstances, they vary. I get it, but if so many people, I was on Sussex. Major percentage of that institution were full of lifers, people that weren't
Hmm.
coming home, and these guys were some of the most down to earth, calm minded, intelligent, great communicate, whatever, and they might not ever have a chance.
Yep.
And it's because society doesn't really know who's behind those walls.
Yeah.
Um, the vast majority of people that are incarcerated, if they could come home a day later, they probably would never look back. The numbers don't lie. So if a person
Yeah.
does X amount of time and they look back, I can tell you some people it take a day. Um,
Sincere just hit a year on the 14th, a
salute to
year
them.
being home.
I
And
came
it
home
gives,
on the 13th of January. He came on the
oh,
14th.
yep,
Yo, yeah, salute.
yeah,
I remember my first year. I tell everybody though, what not everybody, but the general consensus amongst the brothers that came home before me, and I was in denial, and then it happened to me. For whatever it is, that year 3, I don't know what it is. So anybody that's watching this, I'm gonna say what it was for me. I got comfortable. I
mm.
started. I think I started. I didn't forget where I came from as far as the fight, but there was enough distance and I was situated enough. That's a whole nother podcast. That's a whole nother. Year 3 is great. But anyways, um, somebody just put, I'm gonna read this last comment real quick. I think it's a good idea to help those still incarcerated for those who have been released to speak of the
Yep.
general assembly to show the naysayers.
And that's what I call us the Justice League of Virginia. Don't quote that out loud. I don't want to be sued by the Justice League, but like Humanization Project, um, Sisters in Prison Reform, No Left Turns. It was Justice Forward Virginia. Um, that's the thing we want people to do. We want you to get out. We want you to come and speak. We want you to tell people your story. We want people to have a different perspective of people that are incarcerated. Um, there's two things I wanted to just mention about long sentences. One, I like to emphasize that they actually do not make us safer. If they made us safer, we wouldn't still be having the same issues we do in all the areas of the country that we do. And that when you said a lot of the lifers, were very down to earth, because people actually grow out of crime. You get the highest when you're like in that young teenage years, right? And think about it, when you yourself were like, 18, 19, and 20 and not incarcerated. We've all done some things. I probably wouldn't be who I am if there was MySpace and YouTube and everything else out when I was growing up, if we're going to keep it 100. So um, I think getting to know people that are incarcerated, is important. and having second chances. I'm gonna say chances for the purpose of the fact that some people didn't even get first chances. Some
No.
people are born into the situations that they're born into without even having a chance, and so they're making hard, tough decisions that maybe I didn't have to make. So just grace, giving people grace to grow and be who they are, and embrace these people when they come out. They need your support when they're inside. They need it when they're outside and home.
When are you going to run for governor of Virginia?
Listen, I'm not running for nothing. Let me tell you why I can't run for nothing. I don't have a filter. I don't have a
Well, you
filter.
need to run. You
I
don't need
might get kicked
to
out
filter.
of a meeting.
Oh well, we need real people and real people in places. Final thoughts. Whether it's word of encouragement, Jewel, whatever it is, floor is yours. You said a whole lot. I just want to say, if you guys don't watch this and write down everything she just said, I don't know what to tell you. And
you
spread the
can
word.
always be in my DMs for the right
Yeah, put
reasons.
that back up. Let me put that back up. So, I got her Twitter all the way. So make sure if
Yeah.
you're not on Twitter, like she said, get on Twitter. If you've got a loved one that's locked up or incarcerated, maybe not. Maybe you just want to. You don't have to fight for people that are incarcerated just because you have somebody incarcerated. By the way, maybe you
Nope.
don't. You just want to fight for a good cause. Twitter is a great place to start, and you can follow her at Sunita_11.
Yeah.
Um,
And you can go on Facebook if Facebook is easier. Juanita Kennard,
got her.
Kennard. It's right there. You can go on if you want to email. You can always email us. Email me at the SIP 2021.
And
Um,
on IG, you can catch Sisters in Prison Reform,
yeah,
SISTAS in Prison Reform.
yeah.
Uh,
You can ask questions. Um, you can look up organizations like I said, No Left Turns, Justice Forward Virginia, FAM. If you want to learn about how to tell your stories, your loved one's story, I think the biggest piece that one of the biggest takeaway is tell your loved one's story, humanize them. You should not lose your humanity because you've gone to prison. Humanize that loved one. Um, I like to say cliche things because they're actually real. No one is their worst mistake. Um, terrorized society. What argument will they have if ex-offenders who've what does that say? Who've
oh,
changed?
Change come to speak at the assembly. Oh, yeah, that's good. He's saying basically,
Um,
yeah,
Listen, Angel came, Anthony Angel De Jesus came, Sincere came, Anthony Gomez came, Sean Barksdale talked with people. What can they say? They can't tell their story. Only they can only those men can tell, men and women, excuse me, can tell their story. I remember when Angel came up in the house and Delegate Bell and them usually have something snarky to say, and he said, I am the face of second chance. Them Those men had nothing to say. It's
yeah.
easy when someone's not standing in front of you.
And that's what I was gonna say, guys. When they got to look at us, we're
Mm-hmm.
home now, but we still are our brothers and sisters, man. We have been impacted, and they can see it. Not that it's all, but they can see it. And when you stand in front of them and you speak from that place, it's hard to deny. But when you're not there, guess what? Blind eye.
Yep.
It can turn.
And they talk all the stuff that they want until you're there. So I would say don't give up. Don't take no for an answer. Self-care because you are important as well. And make sure your loved ones understand that. And yeah, start with the email, with the phone call, and just build up from there. And get support. When I started this, I started it by myself. Get support from people to help with it. Like I had support around, but like people to make calls with you, to send emails with you, to go to meetings with you. And specifically in Virginia, because I don't know about other states, when the General Assembly comes around, look up these bills and go down there and talk to people about them. testify against them or for them, depending on how you think about them. But don't be afraid. I think that's the biggest thing. Bypass the fear.
Bypass the
No
fear.
can't hurt you.
So you guys heard. We got one more comment. Thank you for all. We appreciate you too, right back. We appreciate
Thank
everybody.
you. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, there was a lot of people on the live stream waiting for this one. And I just want to further encourage everybody. Definitely follow her. Let me bring stuff back up. You can email her at the sip2021@gmail.com. If you're over there on Twitter, if not, you should be at Sunita_11. And then you got Facebook at Juanita Kennard. Make sure you guys get in contact. If you got questions as a thank yous, keep coming.
General
Because
Assembly tomorrow.
General Assembly tomorrow, Pocahontas Building, Senate Room A. No
1 o'clock.
sign. Yeah, just be brief to the point. I'm here to support SB 842 or Second Chance. And just go straight into it. Just be straight into it. Keep going. Just show support. Let them know you're there. If you've been incarcerated, don't be scared to be heard. And remember, all it takes is this right here. You take this right here, and you can start taking steps, and you can ease some of the anxiety by knowing you're fighting. You can ease some of your loved ones' anxiety by knowing somebody's out there doing what. One email a day. I challenge you.
And you're
One
not
email.
alone.
Right. You're not alone. And like she said, you'll be surprised when you start reaching out to people, how many people are willing to join you in the fight, knowing that you're going to help them fight for their loved ones. There's a whole, there's because we're selfless. We're selfless. We're a different type of people here. And we're out here. You just got to reach out because we don't know you're here until you reach out. And I want to say this. Meeting you guys, I thought I had a pretty good handle on the, not the advocates, or you hear certain names for me, right? And then I met you guys, and it's like 1,000 more organizations and advocates. And I'm like, I knew nothing. I knew like 3% of people. So it's just, that's the other thing. You don't know who you're going to meet that knows who. I don't even know. I think through my brother, I don't even know how we got in contact, but it's a small world. There's a lot of advocates. We're all fighting. Get in contact, get involved, get the information, follow her, watch this, share this information, because Juanita just put out a whole bunch. I feel like I wrote a bunch of notes and I'm asking questions, and this is going to be able to be used for my brothers. So I hope you guys do the same. My closing thoughts. Man, I would just say, based on my day, this is to anybody that's incarcerated, anybody that's connected to or has somebody that's incarcerated. Keep going. And that the word I got up this morning, keep going was the word then when I got up, right? Something happened at 12 o'clock, and it was an extremely frustrating situation. And then if you're like me and you've been incarcerated before, I took 30 seconds to think about where I was at. Not that I was even thinking, but it was just like, man, it could be worse. And I was like, okay, I got to keep going. It's all about perspective. What a lot of times seems daunting in the moment, it's going to pass. You just got to keep going. To those that are connected to people that are incarcerated, loved ones, etc., man, listen to Juanita speak. I'm thinking about my wife that was back and forth, between Georgia and Virginia. Thinking about my mother who stayed by my side for 17 years while I was incarcerated. I'm just thinking about different people, man. If you had somebody that was in your corner that was fighting for you, standing there with you by your side, man, support them. Pour back into them, because they poured out a whole lot for you, man. A whole lot. So to the fighters, to the families, man, I just want to say on behalf, we see y'all. And please, on behalf of those that need y'all, keep going.
And for people that like you that come out, give yourself some grace. It's okay if I know people have survivor's remorse, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so many of you guys and women that should be out here, and you should. but give yourself some grace for being out.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you are ready to join the fight
Yeah.
again, do it when you're ready. Come
Yeah.
out, smell the fresh air, sleep for a minute,
Re-energize. Yeah. Get.
re-energize, right? Like drink some fresh water, take a hot shower that doesn't smell like it might break your skin out. Like give yourself some grace.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't do what I did. I'm grateful I did what I, but it weren't. If I could go back, I would have waited. I would have
Yeah.
gave myself. But I'm glad I did. But she just hit it, man. Give yourself grace. Self-preservation is key. In order for
Hmm.
you to get in the fight and be able to sustain it, you gotta be well enough to do so. Um,
Right.
that's it. That's all I got, man. That was a lot of information. Hopefully you
Well,
guys got
thank you.
it. I'm over here coughing. I need some water. It's been a long day. Um,
Self-preservation.
Self-preservation. I'm over here dehydrated talking about self-preservation. Um,
Thank you for having me.
yeah, I was gonna say thank you. Thank you again. Your second time around up here, man. You and Sisters of Prison, you guys are always whenever you guys want to come up here, use the platform, get the message out there, just let me know. Um, and that's it, man. Thank you so much for getting that information. That was a lot of information. I know it's gonna help a lot of people. Somebody just said post the email again. Do that really quick before we. You can email her at the sip 2021 at gmail.com. I'm gonna let
Yeah,
that go one more time. Somebody asked. We got people. You about to get a flood.
that's all right. You go in my DMs.
There you go. All right.
All
Appreciate
right.
y'all, man, for spending time with us. Oh, the comments are still we. Okay, she said thanks. She got it. Portia says she got it. Cool. All right, y'all. We appreciate y'all. Y'all take it easy. Enjoy the rest
Good
of your
night.
evening. Yeah, self-preservation. And get ready for the fight if you're not a part of it when you're ready. And if you are already
Okay.
there, keep going. Appreciate y'all. Till next time. Peace.
Bye.